Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Go, and now welcome to Kowope Radio and Television Station where they give a back to back. Still on this Nigeria matter, still on this the situation where they happen for this our country. Today, I want show una one video we don't explain the real meaning of corruption, and in fact, this video go tell us the reason why corruption no go fit stop for this our obodo Nigeria. This video go show us where they talk about now, go tell us reason why corruption no fit stop for Nigeria, for this country. Make una rush watch the video. I once again I want to thank all my fans. Now they do well. Oh, you people are making me too proud. But make una rush watch the video. Me listen, hear how person take analyze the meaning of corruption. So take corruption get eye. So take corruption e get heart. So take corruption e get leg where they use waka. Watch the video. Make I not talk and finish. Watch am and you see.
We're looking at the topic, why it's impossible to fight corruption in Nigeria. We all agree that corruption is a menace. Corruption is a cancer in Nigeria. And several attempts have been made by several governments to fight corruption, and it would appear as though it is getting worse. Corruption is the reason why people collect contracts to fix roads and they get paid for the same contracts, yet they don't do the roads. That's corruption. Corruption is the reason why some government officials somewhere in the ministries or in the agencies get jobs to fix the Nigeria educational system, either from providing quality classrooms, from providing quality books, from employing adequate number of teachers, qualified teachers. Corruption is the reason why we don't have those in our Nigerian public school system, despite the huge resources that are budgeted for it every year. Corruption is the reason why we don't have adequate health facilities, because the same thing that happens in the health sector happens in the education sector, also happens in the health sector. How? Every year money is budgeted for education in the national budget, in the state budget, and even in the local government budget. But that's where the money ends. That's the last we see of those monies. Majority of those monies get embezzled, siphoned into private pockets, and we do not see the effects in our general hospitals, in our primary healthcare centers, because of corruption. So people use their position, their connection to siphon these monies from public purses into their own private pockets. So corruption is a horrible thing. Corruption is the reason why we're not developing. Corruption is the reason why we have 133 million people living in extreme poverty, multi-dimensional poverty. Corruption is a real menace. But why is it impossible for us to fight corruption, knowing fully well that corruption is this problematic? Why is it so hard to stop corruption? Can't we just stop corruption? What is the use of the AFCC? What's the use of the ICPC in fighting corruption if corruption apparently keeps getting worse year in, year out? In 2015, when Jonathan was president of Nigeria, many people complained that his administration was probably the most corrupt in Nigeria. And then when he said that corruption is not stealing, many people lost it and they decided to vote him out. And who did they look to? They looked to then General Muhammadu Buhari, who was seen to be the anti-corruption champion. He was incorruptible, corruptible. And so he was voted in. But boy, are we wrong. 8 years after, it would appear that President Muhammadu Buhari did not only fail to fight corruption, he probably even made it worse. So what is so hard about fighting corruption? Why is it so difficult for the anti-corruption agencies to fight corruption? We'll look at that in this video. Because by the end of this video, you would have left with why corruption is almost impossible to fix. And then we'll also leave you with how to fix it. Because there's no point in telling you about the problem and not telling you about the solution. By the way, the Welcome to Refresh Nigeria. On this channel and in this particular program, what we are about is discussing solutions. Other channels, even mainstream media, are busy talking about the problems. Thereby, you have a situation whereby people who regularly listen to news end up being depressed, because it is hard and depressing to just live in Nigeria, more so when you follow the news. But not so for Refresh Nigeria. With Refresh Nigeria, you actually get to see solution. And you can see that it is easy to solve Nigeria if only Nigerians, starting with you, can apply the solutions that we proffer on this channel. So if you have not liked, like it. If you have not shared, please do share so that the solutions can go round. And then all Nigerians can contribute the quota to make Nigeria better. That is our goal on this channel. And we thank the Royal Purple Bee Foundation for their support in making this possible. Let's get back to topic. Why is it so impossible for Nigeria to stop corruption? Why? It is practically impossible to fight corruption in Nigeria because corruption is a full-grown human being. Corruption is a human being, a living human being. A human being has a head, has a brain, has a heart, has a hand, has a mouth, has eyes that can see, nose that can smell. Well, that's exactly how corruption is in Nigeria. A human being, full-blown human being that can breathe, eat, that can adapt. So whatever you throw at it, it will adapt. That's why it's almost impossible to fight corruption in Nigeria. So when I say that corruption is a full-blown human being, what do I mean? I'll explain. A human being has a head, and in the head, he has a brain that is in charge of everything, thinking, logical, addition, fear, everything. The brain of corruption in Nigeria are the politicians. They are the politicians. With their schemings and scannings, they know how to circumvent every law to make it useless. Remember how the Electoral Act 2022 was deemed to be the solution to all our electoral problems. Yes, beautiful law, but see how the politicians messed it up, including INEC and the police. All right? So the brain of corruption in Nigeria are the politicians. Now, every human being needs the heart. So is corruption as a human being. The heart of corruption in Nigeria is the civil service or the public service. They are the engine room of corruption in Nigeria. No corruption can happen in Nigeria without the civil service or the public service. No corruption can happen without the civil service or the public service. So, as the heart in a normal human being is the engine room for pumping blood round the body and to the body, right? That is how exactly the civil service or the public service is the heart, the engine room that pumps the resources of the country to the politicians and from the politicians. The heart of corruption in Nigeria is the civil service and the public service. All right? Now, connecting the heart and the brain in a human being are the veins and arteries. Now, the veins and arteries and the capillaries in corruption as a human being are the contractors. The contractors are the veins that connect the brain and the heart in the corruption as a human being. So the contractors are the connections. Like I said, without the civil servants, without the civil service or the public service, corruption cannot happen, despite the skills and ingenuity of the brain who are the politicians. Corruption cannot happen. Now, the connection between the heart of the corruption as a human being and the brain is the contractors. The contractors are the channels, the road, the medium through which the resources are siphoned. Now, a human being needs eyes. Yes, The eyes of corruption as a human being in Nigeria are the security services, the security agencies, the police, the DSS, the ICPC, the EFCCs, the civil defense, and just name it. They are the eyes. Rather than be the watchdog to enforce law and order and defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, the agencies will seem to be manipulated in this human being called corruption for the interest of the brain, which in this case is the politicians. Just like the brain tells the eye to look at what it sees, that is how the corrupt politicians tell the eyes, which in this case are the agencies of government, the security agencies, what to see, who to oppress, who not to oppress. Now, in every human being, they have a mouth through which they speak, through which they send information across. Now, in corruption as a human being, the mouth is the media, particularly mainstream media, and in most cases also the social media. So the media is the platform through which corruption as a human being speaks, and the media is the mouth. Now, a human being needs legs and hands to move around, legs to walk around, right? The legs of corruption, the hands of corruption are religious leaders, pastors and imams. What else do you have? You have influencers, whether comedians, musicians, artists, whatever, influencers. You have oloshos. Well, you can put them in the basket of influencers and all that. All right? Those are the hands and legs of corruption as a human being. And then you have their dependents, the people who rely on these people who are corrupt and corruptly using the system to favor themselves. So this is corruption as a human being. You see that it covers almost every facet of Nigeria. There's nobody that is free from its reach. In fact, I can say, because of the existence of corruption as a human being that can adapt, that can do all of these things, I can tell you categorically that there is no governor that is not corrupt. There is no governor that is not corrupt. In fact, the governors carry out their corruption in very strategic ways that make it almost legal. Yes, because what do you have? If a governor is able to get his State House of Assembly to sign off on his project, however white elephant they are, and then, of course, through the project, whoever he chooses to execute those projects, give him kickback through ways that are underhand and underground, and they have their back channels for doing their kickbacks. You cannot prove that he has stolen any money, but corruption indeed has taken place, and that can be proven. If we subpoena documents, we can follow the money and know exactly what happened, who did what, who stole what. And so no governor in Nigeria, no president can be said to be corrupt. In fact, the last president to have stood against corruption in Nigeria would be Shehu Shagari. Every other ones have been corrupt since that time. And that's beginning from then General Muhammadu Buhari. Corruption. No permanent secretary in any agency. Every permanent secretary in every ministry, department, and agency is corrupt. Whether that permanent secretary is a pastor, whether that permanent secretary is an imam or a sheikh, whatever, it doesn't matter. They are corrupt. There is no way you would be a permanent secretary. Absolutely no way. You will be a permanent secretary in any ministry, in any department, in any agency, that you will not be corrupt. All heads of the departments and agencies are corrupt because of this corruption as a human being. I make bold to say, even if the governor is a reverend father, we hear that in Benue State now, the governor-elect is a reverend father. He's corrupt too. Because number one, you would not get the ticket on the platform of a party like the APC if you're not corrupt. And I will prove it if called upon to do so. It's easy. Just subpoena some documents, ask some questions, and you have your answer. Look at it. How much is the salary of a governor for 8 years? How much? Now, how much is the form for the governor on the APC platform? How much did the governor spend to become governor in all of the campaigns? Then you find out that you're spending 1 billion naira to earn 8 million naira in 8 years. Who does that kind of business except it is for corruption? So that is corruption, and that's the effect of corruption. That's why it's almost impossible to fight corruption and stop corruption in Nigeria. I said almost impossible.
Say, you don't hear that. It shock you, I mean, it don't shock you. You don't see even corruption who they talk about. Now, real human being. Now, human being, we get hand, we get heart, we get leg, we they use waka. Now, be corruption for this country. My brother, the truth be see, if corruption must stop in this country, it go start from you and me, the two of us. Yes, it go stop. That is the truth. Make we stop corruption before we go fit kill corruption finally for this country. My brother, it go start from me and you. Anything where you know say you do, where you know right, stop am. As I dey talk, as I dey always talk, say do good so that good could follow you. Make you no play with your youthful age. Make you no use your youthful age take spoil your future. And I don't talk my own, no. I don't close my una bye. Ọmọ ní ìfowóṣe ni, ọmọ ní